What's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story that I've got for you guys today, the latest physique update from Samson Dauda that a lot of people have been talking about. This is at 4 weeks out from the 2024 Arnold Classic in Ohio, and a lot of people are talking about this update because of the comparison that he also posted with this update. So before I show you the comparison, just look at the update on its own. What are the things that really stand out to you here? What are the things that you really notice that kind of look different for Samson? And I think that that thing for a lot of people is his hamstrings. His hamstrings look really defined here. They're really popping. Obviously, he's trying to in this specific pose. That's what he's showing off. But both from the side and from the back, he's got really deep, really separated hamstrings, which isn't typically something that you would say is a strong point for Samson. And it's been really kind of a big point that we've been making with a lot of Samson's updates recently, that he looks more conditioned and more dialed in than he typically is at these given points in his prep, whether it's 4 weeks out or 6 weeks out or 8 weeks out. He's been looking more dialed in than usual. And if you look at the comparison now that Samson posted, this is a comparison between last year's Olympia, so the 2023 Olympia, the last Olympia that he just did, and then this year's Arnold Classic prep, this video that you just watched. At 4 weeks out, people are saying not only is he more conditioned at 4 weeks out for the Arnold than the Olympia, but he's bigger and more conditioned than he was at the Olympia. Now, I don't know if I would go as far to say as he's more conditioned here than he was at the Olympia, but I would at least say the conditioning is comparable and he's noticeably bigger than he was at the Olympia. I think if you look at both his upper body and his lower body, you can see a lot more. The focal point of this video is the legs, and I think his legs certainly look bigger here than they looked at the Olympia, but I think his upper body too, the fullness of his chest and arms, I think you can see a noticeable difference. And again, the conditioning is almost comparable to being on stage for him at the Olympia. So he's making a very strong case for himself in this video as being able to rival Hadi here. I mean, he was runner-up to Hadi. Well, he was third, but runner-up to Hadi at the Olympia. So only separated by a placing there. And if he's really made these significant of improvements in this short amount of time, which is the thing that we say time and time again with Samson, is he's got this really rare, unique ability to improve so much from show to show. And if he's made these significant improvements between now and the Olympia, maybe he can push Hadi here. Now, in addition to this post and the comparison from Samson, where he's primarily showing off his hamstrings, his coach, Milo Sarshev, also posted a longer posing video where you can also see the other angles of Samson from the front at 4 weeks out. And look, I think arguably Samson looks the best he's ever looked. I think this is going to be a really competitive Arnold Classic. And really, I think there could be a surprising result here. Maybe it's not going to be as much of a slam dunk for Hadi Choopan as we initially thought. You know, we've been saying Samson's really going to have to bring it if he wants to beat Hadi, and he's really going to have to be 110%. And it seems like that's exactly what Samson is doing here, so this is going to be an interesting one. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Samson versus Hadi. Have you changed your opinion? Do you think Samson can win? Or did you think Samson could win from day one? Now, next up in the news, Tonio Burton reacts to Nick Walker's announcement that Nick is going to be competing in the New York Pro this year to try to qualify for the 2024 Mr. Olympia. So this is interesting to me because Tonio Burton won last year's New York Pro. He was 8th place at the Olympia this year. He moved up quite a bit, and he was a little bit more in the mix than I think people expected. And I think even with that 8th place finish at the Olympia, he's still not being talked about that much for as good as I really think he is. And of course, we didn't see Nick Walker at the Olympia, so we don't know how he would have placed. We can speculate he would have been top 3. Some people speculate he would have won, but we don't really know. We don't know where he would have fallen in that lineup relative to Tonio Burton. So I say that because it at least leaves a little bit of mystery as to what could happen when he faces Tonio this year. Yes, Nick is likely going to win, and he's certainly the on-paper favorite, but it's not like we just saw Nick beat Tonio at the Olympia a couple months ago. So Tonio's reaction. He says, I keep getting asked about how I feel about Nick Walker doing the Bev's Gym New York Pro. I think he would have been crazy not to do it, and by all means, he's a bigger guy with a bigger name in the industry, top 5 Olympian. But that doesn't mean I'm just going to come and be belly up tucking my tail. I've never gotten to battle with Nick, and seeing how we're good friends, this will be fun. which I thought was a really good and really professional response to, I'm sure, all the comments that he's been getting ever since Nick made that announcement. Because now you've got two former New York Pro champs coming for the title this year. Two top 10 Olympians. Two really young, fast-rising stars in bodybuilding. And I know that Tonio doesn't get talked about as much as Nick by a long shot. But I really think Tonio is a lot better than he really gets credit for. So I think as we look forward to this spring bodybuilding season, immediately I think we're going to have a lot of really interesting shows, really competitive shows, right off the bat. I mean, starting with the Arnold Classic, obviously, but this New York Pro, just off these couple guys that we know are doing it, it's going to be a really good show. Those are really that's a battle that I want to see. And we don't even know yet who from the Arnold Classic might jump in that lineup in May at the New York Pro. We know that Samson likes to compete. What's to stop Samson from just continuing to compete into New York? I mean, right off the bat, after the Arnold, you're going to have the Arnold Ohio, the Arnold UK, you're going to have the Arnold Brazil, you're going to have the Detroit Pro, you're going to have the New York Pro. You've got the big Pittsburgh Pro guest posing coming up. I mean, immediately, there's a lot of exciting stuff about to happen in bodybuilding in the next few months. All right, now next up in the news, we got a recent physique update from Hunter Labrada, where I thought he looked pretty impressive. Now, Hunter is going to have to requalify for this year's Mr. Olympia. He was top 6, but that's not an automatic requalification. So he's going to have to do a show, and he looks like he's actually in pretty decent shape here, although I think the main thing that people are pointing out is that he looks big. He looks bigger here. And while he hasn't officially announced what the next show he's going to be doing is, I wonder if he's going to jump in one of these early season shows that we just talked about. I mean, there's a lot of options coming up. And I think this is something we need to keep in mind as a lot of these shows start to come up, because I know that a lot of the focus with these Arnold Classics, now that Andrew Jacked and Rubiel is out, a lot of the talk has just mainly been about Hadi Chupin and Samson Dauda, who are both already qualified for next year's Mr. Olympia. I'm sorry, this year's Mr. Olympia. It's already 2024. But I think it's important to keep in mind how many guys are still out there right now that need to qualify. I mean, it's the beginning of the year. It's the beginning of the season. There's a lot of high-caliber guys out there, like Hunter Labrada, that still need to compete and still need to requalify. So when we talk about these shows that are coming up, this is where we're going to start to see some of these bigger names jump in and have some of these more exciting results. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. How's Hunter looking here, and what show do you think he's going to do next? Now, the final story that I've got for you guys today, the latest physique update from your current Mr. Olympia champion, Derek Lunsford, at just about 3 months out now, post-Olympia 2023. And obviously, he's enjoying his offseason. He's putting on size. You can see he's starting to lose a little bit of definition, but the thing that I wanted to point out here is something that I pointed out in a short video yesterday, is when it comes to Derek, I think the strong point of his whole physique, the thing that ties it all together, is his midsection, his waist. I think that's the thing that really gives him this crazy taper, this crazy illusion, because now that he's got pretty big legs, he's got obviously one of the craziest backs, if not the craziest back in bodybuilding, just the X-frame that he has with this waist, that even here, you can see he's gained weight, you can see he's put on size, you can see he's lost definition in other parts of his body, but the one thing that you never see go on Derek is his midsection. You can always see his abs, he can always hit a vacuum pose, he never looks bloated, he never has a quote-unquote bubble gut, he doesn't have that issue that we see with other bodybuilders, especially with shorter ones that put on a lot of size, which I think is the amazing thing about Derek. You guys got to keep in mind and remember, even though it's been such a short amount of time, the amount of size Derek put on in that short time to come from 212 to open, and he really didn't sacrifice his midsection at all in the process of doing that. He maintains this crazy small waist, this crazy V-taper, his vacuum pose, deep separated abs, and even here in the offseason, it doesn't look like he loses that at all. And that, to me, is the most amazing thing about Derek's physique and why I'm such a big fan of him. I mean, he's got a lot of crazy body parts, a crazy back. His legs have improved tremendously. But I think that waist, that taper, the abs, the vacuum, that's really the thing to me that just completes his entire physique. And I think this is something we wanted to see from an open bodybuilding Olympia champion for a very, very long time. And I think we started to get a shift in that direction with Sean Roden winning, with Brandon Curry winning. And I think even when you consider those two names, Sean and Brandon, because I think they're up there in this conversation, I think Derek might be the most aesthetically pleasing bodybuilder to win the Open Olympia in maybe the last 20 years. And I think, like I said, maybe you would throw Sean and Brandon in that conversation. But when you think about Phil Heath, Jay Cutler, Ronnie Coleman, I guess you could put Dexter Jackson towards that upper echelon of aesthetics. But I mean, going back to the year 2000, I think Derek is certainly one of, if not the most aesthetically pleasing Mr. Olympia since that time. And I'm not talking about just mass or just overall size or overall conditioning or who is the biggest freak or who is the most complete. Just aesthetically pleasing. And I think with Derek, you could probably even go into the 90s with that conversation as far as Olympia champions. I mean, compare Derek to like Dorian Yates. I think Derek's midsection is the reason for that. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Agree, disagree. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And as always, I love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Nick, Strength, and Power signing out. All right, guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also, check out my Instagram at NickStrengthPower. My Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power. My secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel. And consider subscribing to my third YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.